Got him in his drive already. I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s. Well, you know, I made incredible. I made the hooks. I made the melodies. Yeah. I made the shit, dog. I'm the man.
The streets weren't ready for this. After years of silence, Max B and Jim Jones just crossed paths again, and what went down? It's something nobody saw coming. Witnesses say it started off calm. A few words exchanged, maybe some old memories brought up, but within seconds, that calm turned into complete chaos. You could feel the tension the moment they locked eyes, to men with history thicker than blood and betrayal deeper than Harlem's blocks. For years, fans wondered if they'd ever settle the score after what happened back in the Dipset days. But now, all that old pain, the money, the deals, the loyalty that got twisted, it all exploded in one wild moment. Sources close to both sides claim Max B snapped, saying things that left even Jim's crew frozen. And when Jim tried to clap back, the entire room flipped. Phones came out. Security rushed in. It wasn't just an argument. It was a collision of legends, years in the making. The Wave versus the Capo. Harlem versus Harlem tonight. We're breaking down exactly what went down in that encounter, what triggered Max B, how Jim Jones responded, and why this could change everything for the Dipset legacy forever. Buckle up, because this isn't just another rap beef. This is personal to understand why Max B lost it the way he did. You gotta go back. Back to when the streets were on fire with Dipset energy. When Jim Jones, Cameroon, and the Harlem movement had the whole culture locked down. And in the middle of that wave came a hungry, raw voice. Max B. The wave god himself. He wasn't just another rapper. Max had that smooth, melodic tone, a whole vibe the streets hadn't felt before. And when Jim brought him under his wing, people thought they were unstoppable. The Bird Gang days? Legendary. But behind those studio sessions and flashy videos, something darker was brewing. Max started realizing that the deals weren't adding up. The money, the credit, the recognition, all of it was getting tied up somewhere else. And while Jim Jones was sitting comfortably as the frontman, Max was still fighting to get what he earned. That's when the first cracks appeared. Rumors started flying. Max accusing Jim of holding him back. Jim saying Max wasn't loyal. And what began as brotherhood slowly turned into a Cold War. Max B's fans saw it. His interviews started getting more raw, more real. He wasn't hiding his frustration anymore. "I made hits for them," he once said. "But when it came to respect, they played me." On the other side, Jim wasn't backing down either. He fired back in his own way. Slick lines, interviews with that but deadly tone. "Some people forget who gave them their shot," Jim said once, smirking on camera. The message was clear. The industry watched, waiting for one of them to make the first real move. But then, everything stopped. Max B's career hit a wall after legal trouble took him off the scene. While Jim Jones kept dropping music, Max was fighting his battles from behind bars. Years passed. New artists came, new sounds took over, but the streets never forgot. Even from inside, Max kept that energy alive. He'd call into interviews, drop messages for the fans, reminding everyone that the wave never died. And every time his name came up next to Jim Jones, the comment sections would explode. So when news broke that Max B was coming home, fans were ready. Harlem was ready. The wave was about to crash again, but nobody expected this. According to multiple witnesses, it started at a private industry event in New York, a quiet gathering for some upcoming projects. Jim Jones was there with his team, laughing, sipping, handling business. Then, out of nowhere, Max B walked in. The crowd froze. Cameras didn't even need to roll. Everyone knew history was in the room. For a second, it looked peaceful. Jim nodded. Max smiled. They even exchanged a handshake that had people thinking maybe the past was finally buried. But behind those smiles, the tension was nuclear. Someone in the room later said you could feel it, like static before a thunderstorm. The two started talking quietly at first, but the tone changed fast. Voices got louder. The vibe got colder. Jim tried to stay calm, keeping his words measured, but Max wasn't having it. He started reminding him of the old days, the deals, the promises, the way things fell apart. Jim tried to play it off, saying, "That's old news. We both moved on." But Max stepped closer and said something that made Jim's whole crew tense up. Witnesses say Max looked him dead in the eye and said, "You built your name off my wave. You know that, right?" The room went silent. Jim leaned back, gave that little laugh, the same one he used to give in interviews, before dropping a cold diss, and said, "If it was your wave, you'd still be riding it." That's when everything changed. Max snapped. He threw his drink down, started yelling, and that's when security jumped in. Both crews got heated. Phones came out. People were screaming. It wasn't just a shouting match anymore. It was Harlem history exploding in real time. Some say Max swung first. Others say Jim shoved him. But one thing's clear. The peace they had was gone, and as both men got pulled apart, the crowd couldn't believe what they just saw. The energy in that room? Pure mayhem. Word spread online within minutes. Max B and Jim Jones got into it tonight. Tweets started flying. Clips started leaking. And fans were going crazy trying to find out what really happened, because for the culture, this wasn't just two rappers arguing. This was the return of one of hip-hop's most infamous feuds. And the way it went down, it looked like it's only the beginning after that night. Word traveled faster than wildfire. The footage from that confrontation between Ulf War with my confrontation between Max B and Jim Jones started hitting the internet like shockwaves. Even though most clips were short and blurry, it didn't matter. The fans saw enough to know something major went down on social media. Hashtag Max B and hashtag Jim Jones were trending for days. Hip-hop blogs, podcasts, and YouTube channels went into overdrive. Everyone had an opinion. Some said Max was out of line for bringing up the past. Others claimed Jim deserved it for how he handled things back in the day. But deep down, everyone knew this wasn't just gossip. This was unfinished business finally exploding after more than a decade of silence. And just when people thought it would cool off, both sides started talking. A few days later, Max B posted a cryptic message on his Instagram story. Black background, white letters, simple but deadly. It read, "They still riding the wave I created. Don't ever forget that." Within hours, blogs were quoting it, fans were screenshotting it, and the internet went wild. Then Jim Jones fired back in his own way. He didn't post directly about Max, but his caption said it all. "Ain't no waves without discipline. Real ones stay consistent." The war of words was back on. Fans started digging up old interviews, trying to find clues about what really caused the split. Some pointed back to money issues. Others said it was ego, but a few insiders dropped something deeper. It wasn't just business, one source said. It was about respect. Max felt like Jim never gave him his due. Jim felt like Max broke loyalty. And in the hip-hop world, loyalty means everything. Still, there was something different this time. This wasn't 2009 anymore. These weren't two hungry rappers fighting for spotlight. These were grown men with history, legacy, and fan bases that never stopped riding for them. That's what made it even more dangerous. A week after the altercation, rumors started surfacing that Max B was in the studio again, working on new music, and people were whispering that one of the tracks might address Jim directly. A few insiders even claimed to have heard snippets. "It's brutal," one said. "Max sounds like he's been waiting years to get this off his chest." Meanwhile, Jim stayed active too. He went live on Instagram, casually addressing questions from fans. Someone in the comments asked, "You gonna respond to Max?" Jim smirked and said, "Man, I don't do reunions with people who broke the code." Todd exploded. Viewers spammed comments like, "He talkin' about Max." And it's on now. That live stream alone racked up hundreds of thousands of views in hours. Industry veterans started chiming in too. Cameron, the architect of the original Dipset movement, stayed mostly silent but dropped one subtle post, an old picture of him. Jim and Max during the good days, captioned simply, "Harlem was different back then." Harlem was different back then. Some fans started hoping maybe this whole situation could lead to a truce, maybe even a reunion. But insiders close to both sides said the damage was done. Too much pride on both ends. One person close to Max said, "They both feel like the real wave." But that's when something crazy happened. An unreleased Max B track leaked online. The song, titled Silver Surf, featured bars that left no doubt about who he was talking about. "You wore the cape, but I made it fly. You built a house on my tide. Now you wonder why it's dry?" The internet exploded. Fans were calling it a direct diss, a sonic message aimed straight at Jim. Reaction videos flooded YouTube, breaking down every line, every metaphor. Within hours, Jim posted a photo of himself in the studio with the caption, "Don't poke the bear." That one post alone reignited the feud completely. Suddenly, everyone wanted to see what was coming next. Would Jim drop a track in response? Would Max double down? Bloggers were eating it up. This is the return of real rap beef. One headline read, "Harlem's Cold War just went nuclear." But behind the hype, something deeper was happening. Old friends were choosing sides. Some of Jim's old Dipset associates were quietly supporting him, while younger Harlem rappers, many of whom grew up inspired by Max, started showing the wave God love. Max made this melodic lane before anyone else. One artist said, "He's the reason people sing and rap the way they do now." The new generation started rallying behind Max like a legend returning from exile. Meanwhile, the streets were buzzing that both camps were gearing up for something major. Maybe a showdown track, maybe a video response, or even another public encounter. People started speculating if the two might end up face to face again. This time on camera. One Harlem OG summed it up perfectly. "This ain't about who's right or wrong anymore. This is about legacy. Both of them want the crown for what they built. And only one wave gone survive." As the smoke from that confrontation settled, one thing became clear. This wasn't just an old beef being reheated. This was unfinished Harlem history rewriting itself in real time. Every lyric, every post, every look meant something. And while fans waited for what came next, whispers started spreading of a possible sit-down, a private meeting between mutual friends of both camps, trying to calm things down. But as one source close to the situation said, "It's too late for peace. Once the wave rises, it doesn't stop till it crashes." Max B had the world's attention again, and Jim Jones. He wasn't backing down. The storm was only getting started, and the question now was, who's gonna drown first? By now, the streets weren't just talking. They were buzzing like a live wire. After Max B's leaked track Silver Surf, the ball was officially in Jim Jones' court. Fans weren't just waiting for a response, they demanded it. Social media feeds were flooded with clips, reactions, breakdowns, and endless speculation. You could feel the tension online. People were picking sides, analyzing every lyric, every gesture, every old interview for context. And Jim, he was quiet, too quiet. But that silence only made the storm stronger. The longer he stayed silent, the louder the speculation. People started questioning whether Jim was ignoring Max because he had a bigger plan or because he wasn't prepared to confront the wave god. Yet that plan became clear when Jim dropped a cake response track 3 days later. The title, Capo's Creed. The streets exploded. Fans called it a masterclass in Harlem diplomacy and aggression. Every line, every bar, every punch was loaded with historical weight. Jim wasn't just responding. He was telling the entire story from his perspective, putting his version of events out there in a way only he could. In the first few seconds of the track, Jim opens with a cold, deliberate tone. "Wave came crashing. But I built the ship, you float through fame. But I run the grip." Boom. Immediately, the fans knew this wasn't a casual track. It was sharp, calculated, and directed straight at Max B. Every lyric was a reminder of Jim's longevity, his control of the streets, and his role in the Dipset empire. Reactions were instantaneous. YouTube exploded with reaction videos, breakdowns, and live discussions. Podcasts spent hours dissecting every bar. Comment sections were filled with debates. Who won this round? And Max B better respond or lose the wave. The response wasn't just lyrical. Jim used visuals too. He uploaded snippets on Instagram and TikTok with visuals of Harlem streets, old Dipset footage, and subtle jabs at Max. It was a strategic strike, not just a musical one. But Max wasn't sleeping. Within hours, insiders confirmed he was back in the studio writing his rebuttal. And by the next day, whispers of a new Max B diss track began circulating. Rumors even claimed he was pulling in some unexpected features, old friends from the Wave Camp who had stayed silent until now. The tension reached a fever pitch when fans spotted Jim Jones and Max B in the same venue at different points that week. Even though they weren't in the same room at the same time, people were convinced a second face-off was imminent. Social media erupted with hashtags like #Max, BVS, Jim Jones, #Harlem Beef, and #Wave V's Capo. Meanwhile, veteran artists and industry insiders weighed in. Some said Jim had handled the response perfectly, measured yet aggressive. Others argued Max had set the tone first, and Jim's response was too calculated. But one thing was undeniable. The feud had captured the attention of the entire hip-hop community. Then came a twist. Sources revealed that some of Jim's longtime associates had reached out behind the scenes trying to mediate. But Max B reportedly refused to engage, saying he wanted to handle the response on his terms. No middlemen, Max reportedly said. I'm talking to him directly through my music. This made the feud even more dangerous. No one was controlling it. No one was mediating it. It was raw, unfiltered, and very public. Every bar, every post, every comment was scrutinized. Fans analyzed the tone, the wordplay, even the emojis, and the streets loved it. This was a real Harlem showdown. On social media, clips of Jim's track went viral. People replayed the first 30 seconds over and over. The lyrics were dissected, memes were created, and even mainstream media picked it up. Local radio stations in New York started playing parts of the song, adding commentary and interviewing fans about who was winning. And Max, he responded with subtle posts. Not a track yet, just lines, quotes, and references to past events. But the message was clear. He was coming, and he wasn't backing down. Wave don't die, it multiplies. He wrote on Instagram. Boom! The internet exploded again. Analysts and fans alike pointed out that this wasn't just a beef. It was a lesson in legacy, street credibility, and loyalty. Both Max B and Jim Jones were reminding the world why Harlem's music scene had always been larger than life. The feud wasn't about petty arguments. It was about history, respect, and the power of influence. Then came the real kicker. Rumors spread of a possible collaborative diss feature from another Harlem legend, someone who could tip the balance in this feud. People started speculating endlessly about who it could be. Everyone from Cameron to newly risen artists in the Harlem scene were suggested. The speculation only added fuel to the fire. By now, the streets were divided. On one side, Max B's supporters celebrated his raw honesty, his willingness to call out Jim directly. On the other, Jim's camp praised his strategy, his measured aggression, and the way he reminded everyone he's still in control. Fans started debating in forums, on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube comment sections. Polls were created. Who won this round? Who's the real wave god? Can Jim maintain his crown? It was a frenzy, exactly what both sides wanted, even though no physical confrontation had happened yet. The energy in Harlem was electric. Clubs, radio stations, and even social gatherings buzzed with discussions about Max B and Jim Jones. The feud had transcended music. It became a cultural moment, and the street rumors kept growing. Some claimed there was a secret meeting in the works to finally settle the score, while others suggested that both camps were planning new releases back to back, ready to escalate the war in music form. The truth. Nobody knew exactly what would happen next. But one thing was clear. This feud wasn't going away. Max B and Jim Jones had reignited a battle that had been simmering for years. And it was bigger than either one could have imagined. And as the week went on, fans and the streets waited for that next move, because when these two collide, Harlem history remembers. Every punchline, every track, every snippet of leaked footage becomes part of the legend. The wave was rising again. And the question remained, who would stay afloat and who would be swept under by the chaos? The streets had been buzzing all week. Every move, every post, every snippet of audio or video had fans on edge. And then it happened, the moment everyone had been waiting for. Max B dropped a follow-up track titled Wave Reclaimed. This wasn't just a diss, this was a declaration. From the opening bars, the energy was raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic. Every line hit like a bullet. You built a throne on borrowed tides, but the waves don't lie, it's mine to ride. The reaction was instantaneous. Within hours, the track went viral. Reaction videos, memes, and breakdowns flooded YouTube and Instagram. Fans debated every word, analyzing the history, the metaphors, and the subtle jabs at Jim. But Jim Jones wasn't done. Within 24 hours, he countered with another track, a direct response that he titled Capo Unbroken. Jim's tone was aggressive, confident, and controlled. He reminded everyone of his legacy, his leadership in Harlem, and his role in shaping the culture. The streets respect power, loyalty, and grind. You float on the wave. But the first command, the line. Social media exploded. Fans were creating reaction threads, debating lyric by lyric, line by line. Hip-hop blogs and podcasts ran non-stop coverage. The feud had officially reached legendary status. Harlem itself was divided. Meanwhile, industry insiders revealed that both camps were planning surprise drops. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about influence, legacy, and street credibility. Every fan, every journalist, every fellow artist was watching. On the ground, the energy was electric. Clubs in Harlem were playing both tracks back-to-back, dissecting lyrics and debating who had the upper hand. Bars, studios, and even local gatherings became hotbeds of discussion. The city felt like it had returned to the early 2000s, the height of Dipset versus Wave energy, but now it was bigger, louder, and more intense. And then came a public appearance that nobody expected. Max B and Jim Jones attended the same event. Not in the same room at first, but cameras caught both of them arriving separately, giving the crowd chills. Fans erupted on social media. Could this be the final face-off? Would history repeat itself? While the event didn't escalate into a physical confrontation, the energy was undeniable. Both legends knew that every move was being documented, analyzed, and dissected. One wrong look, one wrong gesture, and the feud could explode again. Meanwhile, smaller Harlem artists and new waves of fans picked sides. Social media polls, Instagram comment battles, and TikTok duets flooded the platforms. The internet was now a live arena for this feud. And engagement went through the roof. The reaction from the hip-hop community was intense. Established artists praised both for their lyrical skill, their energy, and their ability to turn a personal beef into a cultural moment. Some analysts even called it a masterclass in modern rap warfare, noting the careful balance of aggression, strategy, and legacy preservation behind the scenes. There were whispers of potential collaborations, not just for retaliation, but for reconciliation. Sources hinted that mutual friends of Max and Jim were working to mediate. But both legends remained focused on proving their dominance. Respect has to be earned. One insider said, neither of them is ready to give it freely. Fans weren't just observing, they were participating. Reaction videos to reaction videos created a snowball effect, further fueling the hype. Every snippet of audio, every Instagram story, every rumored move became part of a massive narrative that spanned the globe. By the end of the week, it was clear. This wasn't just a feud. This was Harlem history in motion. Max B and Jim Jones had reignited the street's passion, reminded the world of their legacies. and created a story that would be talked about for years. And while the world waited for the next move, one thing remained certain: the wave isn't gone and the capo isn't broken. Both men had reminded the world why Harlem's music scene had always been larger than life, raw, real, and unfiltered. As the feud continues, fans are left with a question that keeps everyone talking: who truly dominates Harlem's legacy, Max B, the wave god, or Jim Jones, the capo of Dipset? The streets are watching. The world is watching. And one thing is for sure: when legends collide, chaos isn't optional. It's guaranteed. What do you think? Who won this round? Max B or Jim Jones? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next update in this Harlem showdown. The streets are buzzing and you don't want to be left out.